It's the road to the World Tour, the ProVelo Super League. Matthew Keenan and Matilda Reynolds with you. Later, we'll be getting the ProVelo Super League pulse with Angus Cer. But Tills, this is round two. It should have been round three, but round two, the Melbourne Warrnambool or the Women's Warrnambool Classic, that's been delayed by a couple of weeks because of the bushfires. We're now down in Tasmania for what is potentially the most revealing race of the league as to who could be their next World Tour talent.
Yeah, it really is. Hey, Matt. Hey to everyone who's listening. I think Tasmania has such rich history. So many names, globally well-known names have won and really carved their path out down in Tasmania. Firstly, an incredible job that they've done in moving the Melbourne to Warrnambool, the Power Core Melbourne to Warrnambool. I think that was a huge effort, and so it's fantastic that that's going to be coming again and back after Tassie. But cyclists need to get used to dealing with a lot of different things being thrown at them. So they would have had to change their schedule a little bit. And now we're going straight down to Tassie. We get straight into the action, which actually makes the Warnie even more exciting because there's a lot that can happen at the Warnie where you can undo a lot of people's races. And I think we've got 4 stages down in Tassie. And what we saw last year, Matt, was that the riders that won down in Tasmania were able to hold it on for the rest of the league.
And that's something that has been consistent with this forever, ever since the Tour of Tasmania has been underway. And you go back to the 90s and the famous edition with Cadel Evans when he won. He took the final stage victory at the top of Mount Wellington. It was declared that this guy, what's he doing racing mountain bikes? He can win the Tour de France. And he did win the Tour de France. But there was at a period where he was the world's #1 mountain bike rider as well. Richie Porte has had a big impact down there. The Tour of Tassie also. On the women's side, Grace Brown, when it was the National Road Series, she had a big impact at the Tour of Tasmania. Sarah Gigante, most famously, probably amongst the women. So it has proven plenty of times in the past that this is a key stepping stone to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's sort of the closest. We don't get many races in the country at all where it finishes on a climb, it finishes on a mountain. And we've got to go down into the depths of Tasmania to do that. And so, this is the road to the World Tour. This is sort of a bit of a taste of some of the challenging courses that they'll get in Europe. And I think that's where it really reflects the talent, the riders who have it to be able to take that overseas. And I think because we had a few course changes at the SA Kick-It as well, we didn't have that climb, that time trial on the climb. We ended up having to move it because of the bushfires threats to Victoria Park. So we really haven't seen the climbers have their day. And so they're going to get it quite early on in Tasmania. And so this is really the big one that a lot of the DSs are going to be watching. And I saw some stats over the weekend as well of who's watching, and it's a global audience. It's not just in Australia. I think the China, US, Europe, New Zealand, it's really being broadcast around the world. So a lot of both riders and decision makers in these professional teams will be watching the Tour of Tassie.
We've got a team from Indonesia for the first time in this race. We'll get to the course in a moment. We'll take a brief look at all 4 stages. Then we'll go through the riders that we're looking forward to watching. But you've mentioned a couple of times already races that have been either shifted, the course has changed, like at SA Kick-It, the Warnie has been moved back a few weeks. This is a global phenomenon. We've seen this in Spain with multiple races in Spain having been neutralised or shortened. We've seen it recently at the UAE Tour. They had to shorten the first stage because of sand that was across the road, and that was making it dangerous. It's been one of the big topics at the start of the season globally.
Yeah, the weather. And I think, I think we're all a little bit, if you're a sports fan, watching Milano Cortina at the moment in the Winter Olympics and thinking about the Giro and wondering if the climbs like the Stelvio that we've been up many times before has caused issues in the past as well, being still covered in snow. And so I think, I think the weather and how riders, how they react to that is a constant challenge, and it never goes away. It's always unknown. And I love, particularly in Tasmania, Tasmania is really raw in its weather. It can really throw up, a lot of different conditions. So I'm excited to see what's going to come at us.
And that's exactly why the SBS series alone is filmed in Tasmania, because it is raw and it is really embracing with Mother Nature. So let's have a look at it starts on Thursday and it starts with a prologue of 600 metres up zigzag road, essentially. It goes up Brisbane Street in Launceston, and it zigzags its way up. It's only 600 metres. This is going to be a real opportunity for even a sprinter to be able to pick up potentially the first jersey.
Yeah, it's a pretty gross course. Like you think, oh, how hard can it be? But I think it always surprises riders how quickly that lactate acid smacks them in the face. And I think we've seen Cam Ivory win this almost 4 times, this opening prologue. It really suits that sort of power mountain biker sort of background. And so it is sort of that strong climber, a climber who can sprint, we see do well on this course. And there isn't huge gaps, but I do love that it sort of settles the peloton a little bit on a little bit of the hierarchy. But it's really important that you don't have any issues. Don't drop a chain. Make sure your gearing's correct. And I love that they'll be running really lightweight. No one will be taking any water bottles. Biddens will be off. Bottle cages probably come off as well. I probably wouldn't even run a saddle. There's no point of sitting down on that bike on that climb. So yeah, it's always a fun way, and the crowds really get behind it down there as well. So it's a great way to start.
Given the track record for Cam Ivory, watch out for the youngster from South Australia with the Falcons Pedal Mafia team, Connor Wright. He should be then the one to beat in the men's. And maybe we'll see somebody with a mountain bike background. Maybe it's Ruby Taylor who gets a good result.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great shout.
So then on the Friday, it's the first road stage, Guns Plains. It's 107 kilometres, and there's 2 serious climbs in this course. This is a really tough road stage. It's going to be hard for any one team to be able to manage.
Yeah, and I think if we look at, what I loved at last year's edition of the ProVelo Super League down there in Tassie was we had a lot of different winners. We actually, in the women's, had a different winner in each stage. So I think that's what the courses can really throw up. But you have the favourites all hovering around that top 5, and that's what's really important, particularly as they go into the Queen stage. The Guns Playing, it's a really famous stage. It's a very arduous stage, and you've got to really play your team tactics. You can't let a strong break go up the road, but it does suit a strong climber who can still sprint.
And it's going to blow up really early. The first climb comes within 10 kilometres. This is going to be home trainers at 10 paces before they get started. Then moving on to stage 3, which is on the Sunday. And this is the stage that we're going to have as a live broadcast on SBS. And the broadcast kicks off at midday, Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So work that out wherever you are around the country with all the different time zones that we've got throughout daylight savings. But this goes to the top of the last climb, the Poatina climb. It's a 10K climb at the end. It's basically a pretty flat stage, Tills, until they get to the last 10 kilometres where it's all uphill.
Yeah, and this is just, there's just been such amazing footage of Richie, Porte and Cadel Evans and Grace Brown. It's just such a famous stage down in for the Spirit of Tassie tour that you've referred to in the history of this tour, I think, Matt. And, we saw last year that was really where Jack Ward cemented himself as, the main person to beat. And also we saw Sophie Ma really show herself on such a difficult stage. She was able to take the lead away from Talia Appleton. So, yeah, I think I'm really excited to see what names pop up and who's going to really be hovering around that top 5 throughout the 4 stages.
Let's go through some of the names that we're going to watch out for in a moment. Let's close it off with the last stage, Sunday, the 22nd. It's a criterium. It's in Launceston. It starts on Racecourse Crescent. And I like the length of this circuit, Tills. It's almost 2 kilometres. It's 1.95 Ks each lap. That's a good distance for a crit for the ProVelo Super League, rather than the old Bay crits where you could have a 600-metre hot dog circuit.
Yeah, it's actually it's a really important finish as well. It's a tricky one to get right because you want to go early and you can blow up quite quickly, but it's such a shorter route to the finish on having that inside line on this crit course. We saw the teams really dominating and trying to also block other teams. It's quite easy to do. But again, remembering harking back to last year, Jack Ward did incredibly well. They really just gifted him some of those points in the sprint prems, and that's what we want to see. Is it coming down to the 1-2 seconds, the small amount of points, and so the crit can really still play a key pivotal part on who actually takes GC for this tour.
Yeah, it can be all the difference in the end. So let's take a look at some of the riders that we're looking forward to seeing in action. We'll go with them. Let's go with the men first. Any that you're really looking forward to seeing what they can do, not necessarily win it, but what they can do on this course.
Yeah, well, I think it's really important to note that a lot of some of the top riders who were present at the SA Kick-It won't be here for the Spirit of Tasmania tour, and because I assume it's because, Matt, that the Track World Cup is coming up, and a lot of riders are on the track. And we saw at SA Kick-It that was more of a criterium, a sprinter's course, and so we're really going to be missing a couple of those top sprinters at this round. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to see how the climbers go. And obviously, when you look at the lead, who's leading the ProVelo Super League, and you look at those next names, you know, the Brendan Davis, Leighton Cook, Levi Hone, Julian Baudry, what can they be doing? And so I'm excited to see what those guys can do. But how do you think it's going to play out between, you know, Levi Hone and Julian Baudry?
Well, that's going to be a really interesting battle between those two. And Tim Decker is looking after both the teams. So Levi is going to be riding with the Brennan team, which also has Pat Eddy on the team, let's not forget. And although he's not a climber by any stretch of the imagination, he'd be the first to confess that. It's going to be interesting to see how he stacks up on this course. But I think we'll see him working for Levi. And then you've got Julian Baudry, who is part of the Brennan family, but he's riding with the VIS, which is presented by Cal O'Brien and his mentoring program. Julian Baudry, I believe, is the favourite to win this tour. He is the number one rider to win this tour, him versus Levi, which I think Angus is going to touch on in a few moments. So I'm looking forward to seeing those two in particular in the battle to win overall. But mentioned Connor Wright before, really keen to see what he can do. And particularly that opening time trial / prologue, 600 metres, twisting corners, his punch coming out of the corners, that's going to be huge. Case Body Wrap is a team that's always having a big impact. They're a team that's packed full of sprinters. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Tully Lane Walsh can do. Tully's now 26. Yeah, for him to win the Tour of Tasmania, that would be enormous. Then we've got last year finishing fourth on the Queen stage was the young Tasmanian, Ollie Sims. He's riding here for the Cobra 9 Lee Surveyors team. And then last year, after riding the ProVelo Super League, he went and rode for the Ljubljana Poggi team out of Slovenia. So how much has he improved, Tills? That is the question mark. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing from him.
Such a good shout. And like to add to some of those younger riders like Alistair Forsyth, what can he do at only age 18, already showing themselves? But I think Julian Baudry, he just so desperately wants it. And he knows that a lot of the courses haven't suited him, but this is really the course. So, you know, if you can't dominate on this one, and it's a good shout about Pat Eddy, you know, what will his role be? Because I think he's already sent out the bat signal to say that he really wants to be able to take the Warnie. So will he pay that forward? Working with like the likes of Levi Hone for this weekend, and then hopefully that coming back to him in the following weekend with the Warnie coming straight off the back of Tour of Tas.
Yeah, and you mentioned Alistair Forsyth. He's a teammate with Julian Baudry as well at the VIS, and he was really impressive at the national championships. And he's a really strong time trialist, but this time trial is too short for him to have a big impact. I'll be really keen to see what he can do. And also in that same sort of age group, you look at the list of the riders from ARA, Billy Van Hout, whose dad Russell was the Australian national champion back in the early 2000s, rode the Giro a couple of times. Alec Fransky from that team, he was second at the Tour of Brighton. He won the two key mountain stages. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those younger riders perform, not necessarily whether they can win or not, but how they stack up against the riders that are 2 years or 3 years older than them. So, yeah, they're the riders that I'm really looking forward to seeing in the men's. How about the women's?
Yeah, I think the women's is a lot more spread, even though there's a cluster there in Team Red Cat. I think I'm excited to see what the young ones can do in ARA Skip Capital. Neve Parslow, being able to have that opportunity. Keely Bennett is one of the only riders returning who podiumed last year for Butterfield Zip Track Racing. Caitlin Nicholson as well. She also always shows herself. But a newcomer, I think, Lucy Sperling, she showed great form down in SA Kickett, and she's a stronger climber than she is sprinter. I think if we roll down to the Meridian Bike Bug, Hannah Gianardi, still so young, only 19. I think she will be licking her lips at this opportunity. Isla Bradbury is a name that you mentioned, Matt, for Nostromo attacker Cache. Obviously Neve Bradbury's sister, but she's continuing to do really well in the criteriums here in Victoria. I'm not sure how she'll go on the climbs, but I think she'll be a huge support for that team in Nostromo. But we come to the Team Red Cat, and again, it's going to be interesting how this team manages potentially 3 really strong riders and all wanting to have their own opportunity. I think the number one pick for me would be Sophia Salmons. She, this really suits her a lot more than the likes of what we saw in SA Kickett. And I think this is really the biggest opportunity for her. She's indicated every day in her training videos that she wants to be a professional cyclist. And this is her stage. This is her moment to put her CV forward.
How do you feel about the way she's so open with putting it out there on the table? This is my journey. I want to be a pro cyclist.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, I think, you've got to put it out there. I, at times, was never that brave to actually say that out loud. But I think it just shows the development that's happened in the women's world, in the development pathway, really, is that it's right there now for them. And, when I was trying to do it, wasn't there at all. It was laughable that you could almost, sort of become a professional at times. And so I think it's so much more accessible for them to become professional. And they've seen so many of their friends and compatriots and colleagues in their team now become professional, particularly from this Team Red Cat, former Praties team that had 2 riders go into the Liverpool Jaco development team. So I think, but again, coming back to that, how do you balance that? So the other riders being one that you mentioned before the call, Matt, Ruby Taylor, I think was a great shout in Team Red Cat. And the one I'm looking for is also Tully Schwartzer. What can she do at only 19? She had a fantastic few days during the Tour Down Under riding for the ARA Skip Capital Australian team. And so I'm really keen to see what she's done, what she's learnt from that, because I always find that riders who got the opportunity to ride in the Tour Down Under, they've upped a level a little bit, and if you can keep that sort of traveling through for the rest of the season, it's really positive.
And Tully was really impressive in the Tour Down Under as well. And it'll give her the confidence that she can compete at the top level and that she can beat pretty much everybody that's in the ProVelo Super League. And Ruby Taylor, I've got it biased, having grown up a similar generation, watching her mum be so successful as well, winning her first Aussie to get a medal at the road race at the World Championships. And Ruby is under-raced. She actually hasn't ridden much at all for the level that she's at. So there's still plenty of upside with her. And back briefly to Sophia Salmons, you used the word brave, that she puts it out there. I agree, and I love the way she is doing that. I really admire Sophia and the way she's putting it out there on the table. Because as Australians, we have a real habit of trying to play it all down. I'll see how it goes. Really underselling it. I think it's fantastic. The only thing I struggle with is how does she get up at 3:30 in the morning and go training at 4 o'clock?
Every time I see her, I say, mate, you need to sleep in. If you're missing that one little piece in the pathway puzzle, it's a sleep in. But yeah, it's inspiring. I don't think that's everyone's path. I don't know if she's just on Eastern Standard Time and she lives in Perth, so she runs on Melbourne time. But yeah, it's that pathway is working for her at the moment. But I'm keen to see her really have her opportunity here. She does big Ks, but that does not always translate into really high level performances. So it's a really good point you bring up though, Matt, because I think for other riders seeing that, you've got to keep your blinkers on a little bit in that. And in a world of social media and Strava, and I know a lot of professional athletes who they don't have Strava because they don't want to look at what other people are doing. They've got their own pathway. And I think for riders looking at what Sophia's doing, it works for Sophia. That doesn't mean it'll work for you. So, I'm curious to see, training's one thing, but we train to race. Well, they do.
Yeah.
So I'm keen to see how it all comes out. And again, as we started this, how does Team Redcat manage those expectations as well?
Well, they've got the experience in the car with Andrew Christie Johnson to be able to manage that, because they've done it before and they've helped more riders than any other team get to World Tour level. And you're spot on about, don't worry about anybody else's pathway, what they're doing. You stick to yours. Don't get distracted by anybody else. So there are a bunch of names that we're looking forward to seeing in action over the weekend. Angus Cer is the man that's normally on the ground, calling all the shots from the ground. We're going to get the PSL pulse with Angus now.
Thanks, Keenan. Thanks, Tills. I'm really excited for this one. This is going to be a big weekend. I think this has the potential to be quite a critical moment for a number of riders. And I'm going to start on the women's side with this one. I think this is a big weekend, in particular for Sophia Salmons for Team Redcat. She's shown her strength in Adelaide down at the SA Kick-It. She had a fantastic time trial. That's her pet discipline. She was fantastic there. She is an excellent climber. And I think after last year, she didn't quite get the opportunities maybe that she was hoping for. She just happened to have sort of the best riders in the league on her team, and she was an excellent helper. So she's shown that this is now her chance to really stamp her authority on the ProVelo Super League, show that she is one of the best riders here. She's getting into a lot of her favoured terrain. And I think there will definitely be some expectation on her shoulders, but this weekend in particular for Sophia Salmons, I think, is a real opportunity to step up and show that she does deserve to be sort of moving up towards the World Tour pathways and put into that stream. On the men's side, this is also going to be a very interesting one. Another pivotal moment, a very pivotal round in the men's league. You've got Julian Baudry, who's racing for the Victorian Institute of Sport, and then Levi Hone, who's racing for Team Brennan. Both of these riders actually are Team Brennan riders. They've been separated for the season, and they've almost been pitted up against each other to see if they have roughly an equal standing, who's going to come out on top. And I think this round in particular, this is where we're really going to start to see who out of those two is potentially the favourite for the rest of the season. Both of them were very close to each other in Adelaide. On the league standings, they're very close right now. This is where things are really going to start to separate. We've got a big mountaintop finish. It's going to really open things up. If either of them has a bad round this round, it's not the end of the season, obviously, but I think that's where you could potentially start to see someone build that confidence, start to get the points that they need, and really move towards looking at who we're going to see as winning the league outright. So really looking forward to that, both on the women's side and the men's side. I think this is a crucial, crucial round, and I cannot wait to see how it all shakes out.
Well, Angus is on the same page as you and I, Tills, in terms of the riders that he's looking forward to seeing in action. It's good that we agree.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't contradict everything we may have to re-recorded, but yeah, I think it's, and pressure is a privilege. So I'm excited for those riders that are going to be in lights. And as I said, this is their opportunity. This is what we've worked for, to give them this platform that they can perform on. And a lot of people outside of Australia are going to be watching. So I'm excited to give them the opportunity, and they've got to raise to it.
Yeah, and the ProVelo Super League has got a big announcement as well, with Hertz coming on board as the premier partner for this year and for next year as well. And anybody that's travelled anywhere that's had to try and hire a car, Hertz is one of the first ones that you see when you go to the airport. They've got 11,000 locations. They're around 160 countries. And I've spent plenty of times, Tills, going to a bike race, getting off the plane and going to Hertz to pick up a car.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm almost like a little bit excited and relieved. I'm keen to hopefully get a few better contacts for when I go traveling overseas. But here, just even locally, I use Hertz. So, but yeah, how exciting, Matt. I think just the validation that it gives the PSL, now the Hertz ProVelo Super League or the Hertz PSL that we can nickname it to. But yeah, I think it's huge validation, and congratulations to both sides. It's fantastic to have Hertz involved and to be giving, strengthening the foundation of the league.
And we can't wait to get the next round of the Hertz ProVelo Super League underway this weekend. Kicks off on Thursday with the time trial, road race on the Friday. We'll be covering it on the Saturday, and it closes with the criterium on the Sunday. Tills, you and me, midday, SBS for stage 3 of the Tour of Tassie.
Yeah, and I'm so excited that we get to cover the Queen stage. I think it was great to do the crit last year, but really this is the big dance, and might be the biggest dance of many of these young athletes for this league. So really will be the road to the World Tour for someone this weekend.
Can't wait. Tune in on the weekend. Bye for now.
See you then.